Hello, this is Adam Watson at Watson EdTech, and I wanted to do a screencasting of talking about the comments that you can make in Empower. And with that said, there's two ways that you can make comments. I want to start off the screencast by just pointing out for at least our Shelby County users that are watching this video that information about both of these type of comments are in our Empower SCPS user guide, which is linked on our district homepage for Empower information for staff, and that there again is the two types of comments. So as under scoring, there's a way that you can make a comment, and then there is the kind of comments you can make in progress reports, which is located right here. And I'm actually going to bring up those tabs where those clicks get you to inside the user guide to demonstrate, show a few things in a moment. But let's just start with the Empower side and point out that when we do the first type of comments, we're talking about comments that are made specific on overall standard scores or evidence scores. So you can see here it's just depending which side you're toggled. On the score standard side, we're looking at our buttons here. The button that we want is the one that is orange with a little speech bubble. So clicking on that highlights it, and now when I click on a overall standard score, this opportunity to put some comments pops up. More on that in a second. We can also toggle over to the score evidence side. Same idea. We want to make sure that we have clicked on that button so it's the one that's highlighted for comments, and then click on it. Notice that this is a 4 evidence score, and here is a 4 that's indicated as the current standard score and a chance to make a comment. Now, that said, those kind of comments only show up inside of the Empower interface itself. There is a notification that gets sent to the student and the parent, depending on who's looking at that moment, through their home page. So there is that way to be able to see and access that information. But that's it. It doesn't go outside of Empower. It doesn't send an email. It doesn't send any kind of notification. And most importantly, these kind of comments do not show up on the progress report. On the other hand, if we go over here to reporting, we have an option to go progress report comments, and we can see here that at the top there's a content area and progress period that's indicated, but the class group, if you're not inside of the one that you want to look at as far as the students, then you need to make sure to select the one that you want to take care of. Notice that it says multiple places and times. Hey, nothing's going to be saved unless you hit the save button. That's crucial and important when you make progress report comments. That'll show up when progress reports are outputted. If you just close the browser, you're going to lose what you had. The options here is that there is, as you can see here, group comments for all students, and then list of all your students here. You can put individual comments one by one. There are, to be fair, lots of other areas here that are shown, and the short answer is please ignore them. Again, for our Shelby County users that are watching this video, some of this may get changed in the near future between Rebecca Martin and myself. We may replace some of these things or simply delete them, but a lot of them aren't functional or not going to make a lot of sense if you try to utilize them and go, what do those letters stand for, and what do you mean by conduct, and all those kind of things. So for right now, simply typing out a comment that you want to say, do that in these boxes, either for the entire class or for individual students one by one, and when you're ready, hit save, either at the very top or the very bottom, to make sure those are saved. I mentioned that I wanted to go back to the user guide to point out some other things, and with it blown up a little bigger for you to be able to visually see. Again, if you're making a comment on an individual score or overall standard, you're inside of the scoring tab when you do so, and these are, again, comments that no one else besides the student or the parent's going to see. They're not outputted. There's no other kind of external export of that information that's available. But you can choose the comment button, you can make your comment. And the thing that I just want to point out is that the boxes are similar, but they do look a little bit different. If you're on the overall standard score, this is what the box looks like. Notice the satellite button's highlighted for the current score. It is possible that you could change that within this editing function now. So it's not merely just typing something you want to say, but you could also edit it if you wanted to. The current date would be by default today, and therefore when you update it, it's going to indicate, hey, this is the latest information. If there's any comments that have been auto-fed by the machine or by the software, that's also going to appear here, which means you could either edit or even delete them. I highly recommend you leave them be. For instance, this information is important because it lets you know that the score that's sitting there as of right now was created and updated from the Marzano True Score Estimator. And if you're looking and trying to figure out why is it a 4 or a 3 or a 2, that information would be important for you and for the student or parent who's looking at that score. Again, just make sure you always hit that save button before you exit. Secondly, over here, we got the individual task score. Same idea. What's the current evidence score? Currently it's a 2. You can type your comments. This effective date is important because this date, you notice, is a date that looks like it's in the past, right? Again, because the timing of evidence scores are so crucial, this is a way that you could potentially tweak that. And by default, the day that you put in the evidence score is, of course, the day that the evidence date is indicated. But in theory, if you wanted to alter that, and you had an instructional reason or a teaching reason, I should probably say, for doing so, you could edit that to be, later or earlier. And just know that whatever that date becomes officially is how it's going to treat it in the timeline of calculating scores for the Marzano True Score Estimator. Again, do not forget to hit save. All right, last thing we'll point out is on the progress report comments bullets here. We already talked about the first one, that there's a lot of areas there that are probably going to be a little confusing or don't seem very clear. Please ignore them. Just worry about typing your boxes and the comments inside those boxes. We already talked about the fact that the progress report comments tool is important when you want to have this outputted on the progress report, obviously. The thing to know, though, is that whatever comments you make stay unless and until you edit or delete them. In other words, when the parent or the student, perhaps 2 weeks from now, wants to output the report, they're going to continually see those comments you made, basically, if it's year-long grading, for the whole entire year, unless and until someone decides to change them or modify them or delete them. So just be mindful of that. This isn't just a one-time thing or just for that day that you're going to print out a report card every 9 weeks. The comments you make stay with the system, and the progress reports that parents and students can output will indicate those comments as it goes forward. And last but certainly not least, we learned this the hard way, please do not use any symbol language in your comments. I don't have an all-inclusive list of all the symbols that you can or can't use or which ones cause trouble, but I can tell you that DRA scores is how we discovered this the hard way, that when people are using that greater than or less than sign with a letter, that creates some funky editing things that you don't want. So bottom line is that whenever you're typing, just keep it to words. Don't use any plus, minuses, greater than, lesser thans, and all those kind of things. Because if you do, you might unintentionally trigger something in the editing feature, and part of your comments could disappear or they could change. So keep away from symbols when you make your comments. All right, that is it for the screencast for making comments. Again, be sure to check out the SCPS user guide for more information and to go over these in more detail if you like. And thanks for listening.